Welcome back to another episode of Community Post Discussions, where I take the most viral community posts and obviously we discuss them. So today we've got a pretty interesting one, and when I first posted this one, I didn't think people would be so butthurt about it. More specifically, I didn't think the men would be butthurt about this one, but hey, you never know. As a content creator, you're always going to make something, and I think here's a tip for you creators out there that want to start creating and stuff. It doesn't matter what you post. Someone out there is going to be pissed off about it. So the best thing you can do, just keep making your content. But anyway, we got a pretty interesting one. This one was geared towards some of the men. And listen, throughout this entire discussion, I'm going to be talking about men, and I'm going to be giving my opinion on some of you men out here. And honestly, the only thing I could say at this point before I continue into the discussion, if the shoe fits, wear that motherfucker. So, you might have seen the post, you might not have seen the post. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read it for you. It's also going to be on the screen as well. But the post reads, "Men 500 years ago. I've lost my left arm and 5 of my 9 sons in this decade-long war. Nevertheless, I must keep fighting. Men today. Oh my God, the McDonald's workers forgot my extra order of fries. Why do bad things always happen to me?" Now, whenever I make any sort of post or anything of that matter, just content in general, it's never me trying to attack someone or a group specifically. Considering how I make my content, it's usually from an observer looking at both situations, right? Now, when I made this community post specifically, this community post wasn't necessarily aimed towards anyone specifically. However, because of what I seen while I was out, it only made sense that I add it to the community post because I felt like they aligned with one another. Now, in the comments, if you've seen the post, you'll notice some people, specifically men, have been superiorly butthurt about this post, which, again, I'm not exactly sure why. Like, if it don't apply, then let it fly. But I guess if the shoe fits, again, wear it, right? So nonetheless, there were a couple of gentlemen in the comment section that were talking about the post, and more so talking about me from a negative perspective. And listen, I could totally understand your perspective. I would also be butthurt if I read something that kind of triggered my emotions because that's how I act. And this is the thing, right? When we talk about men being, I guess, emotionally responsible, a lot of you aren't. For whatever reason, a lot of guys think that the lack of emotion or the lack of emotional control means the man is more stoic and more, I guess you could say, more controlled in his mannerisms, but that's not the case. So here's where my real life interaction plays with the post. I just got out of the gym. I figured why not go to Walgreens so I can go pick up some cashews, and obviously so I did. The weather was nice. I was walking there, just minding my business, right? Any New Yorker who's out and about, realistically, they're just trying to get their stuff done and then go back home. And that's exactly what I was trying to do. So I walk into Walgreens, it's virtually empty except for the female cashier and the male that was standing across from her. And from the looks of it, when I walked in, it looked like they were already in some sort of discussion, but I had my headphones in, so I didn't really pay attention so much. So I go grab the cashews, I come back to the front, and I'm waiting in line. Normal stuff. So while I'm waiting in line, my headphones die. Didn't charge them the night before. Had enough battery just to get the workout in and like halfway to my walk, and then it died consequently. While I'm waiting in line with my headphones off, I put them away, and then I hear the discussion that the gentleman was having with the female cashier. Now, lo and behold, the female cashier and gentleman were arguing over a sale that ended just like a couple hours ago, or whatever the case may be. I think it was like a day ago. He was looking to buy some batteries, like the small little flat batteries, the ones that look like they're for like hearing aids and remotes. He was looking for that, and he was trying to buy 2. So while I'm waiting there, the gentleman starts cursing at the woman. He starts berating her. The woman looked rather ethnic. She had I believe was a hijab, so obviously she was not originally from America. I do believe she was probably in America for like a couple of years because her English wasn't there yet. It wasn't like phonetically sounding like she was in America her entire life. So the gentleman starts cursing at her, starts calling her stupid. She's a dumb DAB because she didn't do the sale. He wanted to speak to a manager, full-blown male Karen for the loss of the sale. While I'm standing there, he looks at me and he throws me into the conversation. Now, while I'm there and I'm in this conversation, in my mind, I'm like, look, I just wanted to buy my cashews and I wanted to go home. That was it. But the guy is like, you're wasting everyone's time. You're wasting my time and his time. And while he threw me in the conversation, I come over and I ask, I'm like, well, what's the situation? I'm like, now that I'm in this conversation, I didn't want to be in it. what is the situation? So he explains the battery cell. So I look at the woman and then I look at him and I'm like, dude, she can't override the sale. So if you could only buy 1 pack of batteries at this price, you just kind of have to deal with it. Like, there isn't really much you can do about it. You got to take the L and you got to move on. But obviously that wasn't an answer that was suffice for him. You know, he was one of those guys where it was like, no matter what you said, he was just going to be pissed off. Like, that was just his attitude. And I know as men, we end up in those attitudes a lot where, like, doesn't really matter what's going on, we're kind of just pissed off. But at least in my opinion, you would want to save that kind of emotional, I guess, that emotional state when you get home. Like, I don't know, I don't think it really fares well, or it doesn't get much done to complain and argue in person, especially when you're arguing with someone who can't really do much about the situation to begin with. So after I explained that to him, he was begrudgingly, he took his batteries, you know, bought the batteries and went about his business. Me and the woman then had like a 2-minute chat about, you know, his emotions and how he couldn't contain himself. And then I bought my cashews. I made a couple of other transactions and then I went home. And when I seen the post, I was like, oh, this is like perfectly on time. So I added what happened in real life to the post and I kind of put them both together. Listen, we can act like, you know, men are the paragons of what humanity is supposed to be like, or men are the poster children of emotional control. But for at least 85 to 90% of you men out there, you're not. You're not. When I make this content, like, I make a lot of content talking about dating and relationships, and usually it's from the perspective of a male, because that's obviously my perspective, and that's the only perspective I could really talk about. However, although sometimes that is in defense of men, for every other video that I make in defense of men, there's always like 3 or 4 other videos literally arguing back my claims of how men are, you know, emotionally stable, or how men are sharp individuals who have the propensity to be great leaders in their communities. There's a subsect of some of you dudes out here that just act like 5-year-old children. And what proved this right was the comment section itself, because the post wasn't about anyone specific. I wasn't thinking of anyone, any viewer specifically on YouTube, like, oh, I'm really gonna tell him as I'm, you know, creating the post. It was literally post 22 of 31. I put these posts out 2 months at a time. So in other words, that post that you're seeing that we're talking about right now was already uploaded and scheduled like a week before I even ended up in this situation. I just went back and edited it because I thought it made sense. Like, what better way to add further context to a post with a real life situation? And this is what kind of like grinds my gears to an extent, because it's like, I'm not talking about anyone specific except for that very specific situation. And even though, like, I am clearly in my right to talk about it, first of all, there's no reason for me to have to explain the situation because you're upset about a community post. Now you're probably wondering, what do you mean you're upset? Like, who are you talking about? So if you're new here, first of all, if you're new here, consider subscribing, because I make video all the time. We talk about dating, relationships, community posts, fitness, self-development, everything for men from the male perspective. And even if you're a guy and you may not agree with all of my perspectives, you'll find a couple gems here and there. So I definitely implore you to subscribe and, you know, argue with me in the comments. Listen, I'm not one of those creators that are not going to reply. I know a lot of times people think that creators that reply back to comments are, you know, like triggered or like you caught their attention. Like, no, I'm just replying to a comment. Like, there's no hard feelings behind it. I don't know who you are. The beauty of internet communication is that at the end of the day, I turn my phone off and go back to a life I enjoy. I hope you can say the same. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the most unhinged comment that I've gotten on this post, and I think just about any community post, and I've gotten quite a few before. All right, so this comment comes from a gentleman named Sean Jackson 6440. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for commenting, even though your comment is kind of myopic and also ignorant because you didn't know the entirety of the situation. But hopefully if you are watching this video, this will give you some more context. He goes, by posting this, you are also displaying your emotions towards the situation. I don't see why everything is worthy of posting on social media. The man was upset. So what? Did you talk to said person and try to de-escalate the situation? Or did you quietly say nothing, then come home to whine about it for likes? Yeah, I don't understand some of the men in this world either. Sean, once again, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to comment, but I also want to highlight a couple of the things that you said there. And we'll go ahead and dissect it again. Let me pick my phone up. So let's go ahead and talk about this. First, let's talk about the first sentence. By posting this, you're also displaying your emotions towards the situation. Dog, I make content. Like, I make content, bro. I see shit, I post shit. Y'all talk about it, you increase the watch time, I get paid. I make content. So if you are going to be upset about what I post, the real simple solution is to just ignore it and keep it moving. Because again, if you're going to comment, whether that be a like, a subscribe, a positive comment, negative comment, a share because you like it, a share because you hate it, whatever the case is, you engage with the content. So if you don't like the content, homie, just keep scrolling, but you're not going to because you love this content. Some of you are genuinely addicted to this kind of stuff, or just like the internet in its entirety. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. Let's go ahead and dissect another sentence. So he says, did you talk to said person and try to de-escalate the situation, or did you quietly say nothing then come home to whine about it for likes? So if you watched the video, or I mean, at this point, you already know, but I did de-escalate the situation. I want to say thank you for keeping me accountable for being such an upright citizen. But again, it's not like I was looking to de-escalate the situation. I kind of just got thrown into the conversation, and this is why I went back and re-edited the post. None of this requires an explanation. Sean, you definitely don't deserve an explanation. On top of that, if a post like this got you upset, I can only imagine what other posts that might have some like harder hitting statements or opinions might do to your psyche. A lot of you guys are very cupcakey. You're cupcakey in your masculinity, you're cupcakey in your emotions, you're cupcakey in your discipline and consistency and just about anything else that you do in life. This is why you're average. This is why your life sucks. But instead of getting upset with me, you should probably do some looking in the mirror and do some self-reflection and ask yourself, why did a post that has nothing to do with me get me so upset? And Sean, you're not alone. There's other guys like you within the comment section. Thankfully, it's not the majority. I appreciate the rest of you. But Sean, for guys like you and guys that are unable to control their emotions, or even guys that feel triggered by like the slightest sort of I guess, negative commentary towards men and their fragile masculinity, you're in trouble, buddy. You are in trouble. You are like one actual real life situation from happening from you like completely losing it. And that's the thing with a lot of guys, because, you know, as time goes on and more men are being shut out of the dating world, more men are choosing not to go into the corporate world, more men are choosing to be, I guess, I don't know, the grown child version of themselves, we're going to see further degradation in society. Now, am I giving women a pass? Do I think all women are mature and emotionally stable? Absolutely not. However, what I'm really finding here is that for every one or two females that are emotionally unstable or just act erratic, there's about 10 to 15 men who haven't even hit the mental capacity threshold of being able to even have an actual relationship with someone. And the reason why I bring up relationships is simply because for an interaction, just using Walgreens as an example, for an interaction like that to happen over batteries, I can only imagine what his interactions are like with his significant other, if he has one, when there are actual situations that arise within that relationship. Some of you aren't actually healed. Like, some of you aren't as mature as you think you are. You just haven't been in a situation that has forced you to act the way you normally do. You've been able to keep that emotional instability under wraps for quite some time, but it's clear as day to see that the way a lot of these guys act to a community post is potentially the same exact way they'd act in person, and if not, even worse. That's just my opinion. I think a lot of you guys that come off and try to act hyper masculine really deep down inside are a bunch of cupcakes. And if anything, this post kind of proves that point. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. You let your thoughts be heard in the comment section below. Of course, as always, I do not care what you think about me. Your opinion has literally no effect on how I feel about myself. However, I do invite you, whether your comments be positive, negative, or neutral, to come down to the comment section and let's talk about it. Because at the end of the day, if we can have conversations about these things, then perhaps people can walk away with some new insights that they could apply to their lives in hopes for a better change. That's just my 2 cents. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Feel free to watch another one of these videos. Community post discussions. We'll be back with a new episode. We got self-improvement courses coming out this summer. It has nothing to do with women. It's all about your mental and your emotional instability. We've got fitness programs. You can go on FitarFitness.com. Feel free to go ahead and download the app. You could buy the book as well. And if you are a small business and you're looking for some models, feel free to hit up my agent. You'll find their information on my Instagram, and they'll go ahead and get you set up with a book session with me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Peace.